viewers, students, offline students, who you are, where are you from?
Okay. So, hi everybody. My name's Sandra. I'm a British English teacher here in Istanbul, Turkey. I've been teaching English here for about 8 years. Recently, I was teaching at high school, but now I'm kind of focusing more on my English for myself. So, I'm building my own courses and trying to build a website to kind of get English out there so people can enjoy it. Um, and it's not all about grammar. That's my tagline. It's not all about grammar.
All right. So, dear viewers, for your kind information, I am very much delighted today to invite English teacher Sandra.
Yeah,
Basically,
thank you for inviting me.
basically she's from England, but at this moment she been living in Turkey, Istanbul city, and then teaching to students their English, and then she has been teaching English for 8 years. It's my honor to invite this senior English teacher in this live session and to get some advice for our viewers, for our subscribers, those who are learning English, because it is always better to learn from each other, English teachers from different countries.
Definitely. Thank you for inviting me to talk to your friends and your colleagues and whoever's watching. So, hi, everybody. Nice to meet
Sure.
you.
Yeah. So, first of all,
Thank you so
now
much.
let's begin learning language from the beginning. What will be the beginning stage of learning language? What activities or what should we do in the starting stage of learning language according to your experience, and then according to the your country experience or your teaching experience? For example, someone those who want to learn language in the beginning, what are the areas they should be aware of in the process of learning English language? Please go on.
Okay. So for me, I've taught English here from kind of 4-year-olds through to adults, maybe 50, 60. The main thing people struggle with is vocabulary. So words, they don't have enough words. Grammar, yes, you need an element of grammar too, but I think you need the vocabulary because you can't speak without any vocabulary. So that's kind of a main issue. It depends where they come into the language learning circle, if you like. You know, are they a complete beginner? Have they had lessons before? Um, who taught them before? What were they taught? Because it can be quite difficult to undo mistakes if there's been any mistakes in the past. But definitely vocabulary, listening as well. You know, being able to listen to and try to understand what people say. I know this because I'm trying to learn Turkish, and my listening ear is not very good, so I find it quite difficult. So I understand people on this journey. It is difficult. I don't know
Absolutely.
enough vocabulary either, so
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm very happy to hear this, because I've been always telling to my students, because any language we learn, we speak, sorry, any language we speak, we understand, we read, it is because of the words. Because
yes,
any
we need
language
the
we
word
speak, we need words, a group of
for
words which
sure,
makes a sense is known as a sentence. If we have no
for sure.
words, we can't understand, we
You can't
can't speak
communicate.
also. So the basic components of English language, the first of all, it is said that the word power. Word power is our actual strength in any language. Doesn't matter in English, any language it might be.
For
Any
sure, it's
language
like
we
your backup,
speak, we understand, we need words. Vocabulary is very
definitely.
important. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think for learners as well, this kind of they need to write these words in a way that they understand them. So they need to put them into context, whether that's kind of write the word and then find the definition and draw a picture. So you know, it kind of concretes into your brain. Um, kind of what the word means, how it sounds. You know, sometimes words sound differently to how they're spelt. You know, it's very confusing.
Mhm.
And so they need kind of a book or something that they log down these words so that they can remember. But it's individual. You know, what's good for me is different for somebody else. They have to work out kind of their own plan, how they
Mm.
do that. their own learning style, really. But it's really
Absolutely.
important, and verbs as well. Kind of like stand, sit, play, because verbs obviously are very very useful when we're talking. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And learning words in any language will not happen instantly. It takes
definitely
time
not.
also.
Definitely. I think kind of it depends on your pronunciation. If you're kind of a perfectionist and you want to get that perfect pronunciation, you're happy just to learn the word and kind of go with the flow. Everybody's different how they learn, so it depends on your own style, really.
Because
So yeah,
sometimes
definitely work.
students they come to us, sir, we want to learn language very soon. So learning
Yes,
language instantly won't be happening because word power is very important, and it's not possible to learn a lot of words within short period of time. It takes little time. It is a gradual process.
sure. There is a kind of an app on the internet called WordShake,
Mhm.
and I think it's British Council, and I use this with my students when they're kind of just beginning really, and so it gives you 3 minutes. It's a countdown game, and you have to find the words within a grid. So it can be cat or whatever. It's a mixture of letters. You have to find the words within that. That's really helpful too, because they can see their score increasing. So I think my student started out the first time with 8 points.
Mhm.
When she kind of like said, "I've had enough of this,"
Mhm.
she was like 87. The words had got longer and um, better. So that's a really good app. WordShape's a really good, useful. So you can find that on the internet. It's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because sometime I see that students they know a lot of words when I tell them to okay
Mhm.
learn words, and they know and they write also, and but when it comes in speaking, at the time they don't get even easy words also in their mind to be speaking out that
Yeah,
particular language, especially speaking in English. Then I say, don't you know this much? I know, but when I want to speak, it's not coming at that time.
yeah.
What can
Sometimes
be
they
the
try and
cause?
translate in their head from their native language
Yes.
into English. It's very difficult not to do, but that's probably the problem. Um, and sometimes they're trying to say words that they don't fully understand, so that
Mhm.
makes it difficult as well because they know they want to say this word, but they can't remember it in English. It's like so they get to a word, it's like and they can't remember. So I always say, stick with the words that you easily understand, because it'll be more fluent for you, and then just build on that. So it's like a building block, really, and they get there eventually. So
All
yeah,
right. So I think
see,
we will be dealing the 10 topics or 10 points for learning language. The first of all, in the beginning, we discussed that any language we want to learn, especially when we talk about learning English language, we must be making sure that in the beginning stage, let us learn a lot of words, word power, vocabulary.
definitely,
First
yeah.
step to
Verb,
learn language is learn words. It can be by
because you
listening, by
can't
reading,
communicate
writing,
otherwise.
anything
Yeah,
it can be. Okay, so
yeah.
let's talk about second step. What could be the second step of learning language? We will talk about 10 points.
Okay, wow, okay. Okay, for me, I think you need to speak the language. You need to be involved in. So my cat's just come to say hello. So you need to be involved in the language. If you can speak to a native speaker or a group, then do that. That's
Second
really
step,
helpful.
after learning the words directly, you are talking about speaking, or should we follow the listening skill in the second stage? What should we
Well, I
follow
think listening and speaking kind of work together. I think
together? All
because you
right.
have to listen to be able to reply to what
That
somebody's
means the
saying to you.
second point will be after learning a lot of words, let's make the habit of listening and speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can mix them because you
Mixing
need
it will
need
be
to know
better because it goes together always.
you need to know how to use those words. There's no point giving our students a lot of words that they don't know how to use. So we need to maybe make games around adjectives, nouns, verbs,
Mhm,
placement of those, and
mhm,
listening. So
mhm.
that can be kind of audio, or it can be by your teacher. It could be an interactive game on the internet, for example. Or now you can get chat AI, so you can chat to a robot,
Mhm.
and you can ask it a question, it will reply to you,
Mhm.
and then you have this kind of conversation with the robot. So
It's
there's lots of
becoming
different ways
very
now.
famous these days. This AI application and AI
I love
chat.
it.
It's becoming very famous these days. I've been seeing.
Yeah, I like AI. I'm not so keen on the AI chat. For me, I don't like it, but I can see its usefulness for language learners. Because there's no, you can do it in your own time. You can spend 5 minutes, you can spend an hour, however long you want. But yeah, it's very useful for learners.
Absolutely. So, as we've been talking about this listening and speaking, so actually, according to my country, people know English, they read English, they write English, they understand English. Even they teach English also to the students in their native language. What when it comes
Okay.
in speaking, so most of them they neglect, they have fear of making mistakes, hesitation, not having confidence in speaking. So how about your experience according to you?
Okay, well, I know from my Turkish learning that I don't want to make a mistake, so I tend not to speak because of that reason, which is wrong. You know, you learn by your mistakes. It's only the experience of the mistake that helps you to learn, and, not to do it that way or to do it a different way. And I always tell my students, even as native speakers, we all make mistakes in our native language. Nobody is perfect. So it's okay to make a mistake. It's a friendly environment. Nobody's judging. And this is where you can try out in a safe space your English. It's good. I mean, my colleague and I have just started a confident speaker course. We've developed a confident speaker course. So this is for kind of A2, B1 level and kind of B2, C1 level. So there's two different classes, if you like. And this is to gain confidence in speaking. So for presentations or interviews, or the lower level ones want to be cabin crew, so they want to go and fly the world. So things like that. So it's important for them. But listening and like I say, speaking come together. I think you could separate them, but like I say, my listening's not very good, which is probably why my speaking's not very good. So I need to really practice on that. But I know that myself. But I have to work on that. But yeah, definitely. And the more interaction you can get with listening, speaking, listening to podcasts, listening to radio, listening to films, anything really that opens you up to the English language. Doesn't have to be British or American. It could be Australian. The English doesn't matter. It's just being open to it and hearing these different sounds. I think is really important. And
Absolutely.
making a note, maybe kind of things that you don't understand, so you can ask the likes of yourself, or myself, why do you say it like this, or why does it appear like this, or you write it like this but you say it this way. So yeah, it's very useful. We have to
Absolutely.
take ownership of our own learning in a way.
Absolutely. So the second point would be listening and speaking practice. Listen more and then do the speaking practice. When we talk about speaking, so we are not going to speak perfect English in the beginning itself. Mistakes will be there. We shouldn't be worrying about mistakes, because without mistake,
No.
nobody's going to speak. So that will happen in the beginning. So we should be speaking. Absolutely. Now, what could be the third point according to you?
Okay, so we've kind of got all our words, we've listened, we're starting to speak. So I suppose reading and writing. So
Okay.
it depends, do you need English for a specific reason? Is it for a job? Is it for school? Is it for university? So obviously it depends on what you need English for. Um, like I say, we have two ladies on our course that want to be cabin crew for Turkish Airlines. So
Mhm.
they need specific vocabulary, and they need specific, can't say the word, specific listening kind of,
Mhm.
they don't need a general, they need um, job specific. So, you know, um, about how the pilot speaks to the communication tower, kind of what the process is for loading the doors, and all kind of the technical jargon as well. Well, jargon's probably a good word actually. So it depends. So they can read that, they can write that. We can do gap fill exercises
Mm-hmm.
where they have the vocabulary. So we go back to the vocabulary, and they've worked with it a little bit. So they now have like an exercise where they may read something, and then they have to input the words from the earlier vocabulary tasks into this new exercise. So you have reading and writing together. So it's kind of bringing it all into context. It's not kind of like they're not set alone. They're not kind of working by themselves. It's kind of all work together. So yeah, reading and writing. So
Yeah,
we can do that throughout the tenses. It doesn't
absolutely.
matter.
So the next stage, the next point will be reading and writing, because it's gonna determine that what perspective are we learning a language all about, what's our attention of learning language. And
For
this is
sure.
also one of the important parts of learning language when we talk about reading and writing. So it gives us a lot of
And
confidence once we become a very good writer, so we are the master in that language.
for sure, yeah. Maybe they want to be a creative writer, so they'll need a particular style of writing. Or
Mhm,
if they're going to university, they need an academic style of writing. So,
mhm,
it depends on what they need it for. But yeah, definitely focus on kind of um, the format of how you write. So if you're writing an essay, we have this like
mhm,
hamburger thing with a bun, like a
mhm,
hamburger bun. So you have the top and the bottom and then the filling. So an introduction and a conclusion, and then kind of your
mhm,
middle bit is kind of what you feel you're going to talk about. So kind of all those things. So like your topic sentence, how do you
mhm,
find your topic sentence? Um, Obviously, this is obviously higher level English learners.
mhm,
But even at a lower level, you can be kind of working towards that, level, obviously on a very gentle scale.
mhm,
But I find here in Turkey, children are not so good with critical thinking. You kind of like say, okay, what do you think about um, the man landing on the moon?
mhm,
And they don't know how to answer. So I think to engage children as young as you can, to kind of use English to be able to answer that kind of question
mhm.
is really useful for them.
Absolutely.
Um,
I appreciate
and it's
you.
good if they want to go to university. I think that's very helpful
Absolutely.
for them.
So yeah, this is also very important, as you said, that the third stage of learning language, it's going to be all about reading and then writing. After that, having ability to think in English, creative thinking, instantly thinking on any particular topic, maybe any topic we
Yeah.
say, let's talk about that. Shouldn't be going blank in our mind at the time. Rather, we should
Yeah.
have lot of words coming in our mind instantly, thinking ability to explain more about that, systematically analyzing the topic, and then after that, step by step, keep
Yeah,
on
for sure.
speaking on that. Very
Yeah.
important, very good.
Yeah.
What
With our
would we?
course as well, we were focusing on a bit of presentation. So we've been kind of looking at the format. So kind of how you introduce yourself, for example. But again, you can start this very much earlier as well, in kind of like a simpler fashion. How you write an email, for example. How do you write a birthday card or a postcard for the younger ones? It's
Mm,
all really beneficial. How you interact with other people, basically. And what's good, not
mhm,
necessarily correct English, but what's a good kind of
mhm.
English base for that, I think.
Now, what will be the fourth point? We will
Are
discuss
we fourth
10
or fifth?
points, and then after that we will dismiss all our viewers, friends, students, online students, offline students will get something that like two teachers just discussing about learning language step by step, the first point, second point, third point. We have finished
Yeah.
3 points. So let's go for the fourth important point according to you for learning language we should follow or we
Okay.
do need to follow.
I'm very much because before I came to Istanbul, I was an occupational therapist. So kind of my students are at the center of what I do. So it's not about what I want them to learn. I want them to tell me what they want to learn, and I want them to like tell me their hobbies, what's their likes and dislikes. Because if you're learning anything, you need to want to learn it. So I couldn't maybe say to you, okay, we're going to talk about astronomy, and you just dislike astronomy, so that wouldn't be, it's not good. But you might like football, for example, so we'll talk about football, and kind of use English around the topic of football. um, for me it has to be centered around the student or the group, depending on the dynamic. Because it's not about me. I'm not learning, my students learning. So if they're not going to enjoy what they're learning, um, I don't think they will develop as quickly as maybe they could do. So that for me is very important. Um, so kind of like if I do plans, they're kind of individualized plans. They're not never the same. Every student's different because they all have different ideas. They all have different hobbies. They all have different likes. Sometimes they come from different backgrounds.
Okay, so that means you are talking about the fourth thing, that we should have interaction with different people.
I think so. I think that's really important. So
Mhm,
I spoke to your children in your class earlier. It's good for them to hear another English kind of accent, if you like, dialect. So I don't see anything wrong in like Australian. If you can find somebody, or shown even videos of like different accents. I mean, in England, there's a variety of different dialects within England.
mhm,
So I kind of come from the south, so I can say things like glass and grass. But if you came from the north, you'd say glass and grass. So
mhm.
they're very different. They mean they're the same thing, but they sound different. So yeah, I think it's very important
Absolutely.
that you mix it up, and if you can speak to different people, yeah, speak to different people for sure.
Yeah, this is one
It
kind
makes it
of
more interesting.
practical exercise also, because as you said that
Sure.
talking to different people and having interaction with different people will a
Hmm.
learner to learn and learn from different people and improve himself and herself also.
I mean,
So
online games and like Xboxes and things like that, they're dependent on, obviously, if you're allowed to play them, or how,
mhm,
depending on your age, they're good for like learning English as well, because they're forcing you to speak. So
mhm. What
definitely.
could be the fifth point? Half. We
Okay.
are going to finish out of 10. We have come to the half conclusion of our
Okay.
topic.
I really like playing games in my lessons. I really enjoy that because I can see the development of the students. I can see their confidence building. So a lot of my lessons are not based around games, but there is an element of gaming in there.
Mhm,
So I think they have to have fun.
mhm.
English is any language actually. You don't want to be like, oh, I've got to learn
Very
Italian today.
serious.
You should have a little bit of enthusiasm. You should want to. So I think if you can make it a little bit more fun, I think
Mhm,
that's good. And
mhm,
the student gets more interaction, and they're going to use the language more. Um,
mhm,
but I also think sometimes that, particularly school or high school, they kind of have their lessons and then they don't do anything after school with that. So maybe we should encourage them to like make a WhatsApp group or some kind of
mhm,
interaction group where they can chat in English.
mhm,
I know here my friend runs a conversation club on every Saturday for free.
mhm,
So people just come along and we just talk informal English. We don't very much, we don't really have a plan, because you don't meet somebody and go, okay, today we're going to talk about the weather, or we're going to talk about the trains or the transport. So
mhm,
we try and make it as informal as we can because it's conversational.
mhm,
Because you don't sit down at a table, it's not planned out what you're going to say.
mhm,
Somebody will interrupt you, and and the chat goes off in a different tangent. So I think that's important too. Yeah, there are times English has to be formal, but there are times, when you're just trying to talk to somebody, you
mhm,
just need informal English, to
mhm,
know how to communicate. I think
mhm.
that's important too. So maybe
Absolutely.
that's 2 points in one.
Absolutely. So we have covered the fifth point. The fifth point we talked about playing any games, making learning language a fun, not putting the stress in the students' life, in their mind,
For sure.
and making
I
them
think
to
that
think
doesn't help
about a
stress.
grammar rule, and that doesn't help
Mm,
also them. They always will be serious. So having fun, people will get curious also, and some pleasure will be
for
there.
sure.
At the same time, while playing the games, we will decide them giving a we can decide them giving a different roles to be played. This is called role
For sure.
playing
Yeah.
activities. When we
Mhm.
talk
Yes.
about
Yeah. Role
playing
playing.
games, role playing activities where the
You
people are given some roles to be played in order to speak or practice that particular language, the role what they are
for sure.
assigned for.
Mhm. I mean, a good thing with role play as well is you can, if dependent on their level, you can give them the topic and you can ask them to write the dialogue themselves. So it's more personal because they've written it themselves.
Mhm,
Or you can do it for them. So my students particularly liked Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet.
mhm,
They loved that. They just loved the flow of the characters and the ghost and you
mhm,
know who killed who and why did they kill who and just the poison and
mhm,
so what I did with when I used to do that was kind of they created a poster. So we'd kind of like go through the book and they would act out the scenes.
mhm,
And then they would kind of recreate a poster about the kind of the book. So
mhm,
again, using English but in a different way. And then they had to present that poster. So they had to obviously talk about why they'd written or drawn what they had done. So that worked very well as well.
mhm,
I
mhm,
like interaction. I think if I could, I would like my private student I have had for a number of years. I'd like her to maybe talk with somebody from a different country
mhm,
in our lesson again to have that experience of talking to somebody other than my British accent.
mhm,
And that's like we said earlier, it's really important to get a mixture. I had
mhm,
a friend who went to a conference in Europe, so there was many different English accents in this conference room.
mhm,
I think there was German, Finnish, Italian, um,
mhm,
and she found it very difficult to understand the different English. She knew English quite well, and
mhm.
she was good at English, but she found the different types of accents really quite hard. So I think the more you can expose people to different types of accent is only going to be good.
Yeah, yeah. I also love, talking to people from around the world, especially the different people, different
Yeah, I think it's good.
accent, and that's very important because when we talk to people from around the world, especially an English teacher also, what happens? We learn the pronunciation, the way they speak, what are the very important, what are the words that most of the time they use there in sentences. So all those things will help us to learn something from others also. We shouldn't be ourselves
Pronunciation
or
is kind of a huge topic here as well. People like, I need perfect pronunciation. My personal thought is that you don't need perfect pronunciation.
that's
As
not
long as
possible.
somebody,
That's not possible
no,
also to have perfect pronunciation.
no, because of your native language. Your native language, you're brought up with the particular sounds and, structures of your own letters. So to try and convert that into kind of perfect pronunciation is really difficult. I think it can be done to some extent, but not you'll never get rid of it totally. But I think
Mhm,
as long as somebody can understand what you're saying, I think an accent's quite nice. I don't think it has to be perfect. But I know in China there's a lot of Chinese guys. They they strive for the perfect accent, and they
mhm,
get kind of very demoralized if they can't achieve that. And I think that's a shame because just you're speaking English. Yeah, you have a Chinese accent. That's fine.
mhm,
There's people here from Russia who speak Turkish, but you can tell they're from Russia because there's like an inflection in the language. But
mhm,
I like it. I think it's good.
mhm,
So I think as long as I can understand you, I don't feel it's a problem. I don't.
mhm.
What do you think?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, you have obviously you're speaking English, but it's not English like my English, but I
Mhm,
can fully understand you. So,
mhm,
but you have an accent. But so what's I don't see the problem. People get so hung up about it. I don't think they need to.
mhm,
I think
mhm.
it's a shame that they do.
Absolutely. I do appreciate you for this also. So we have finished the 5 points. let's talk about the 6 point. What will be the 6 point
I'm
according
sure
to
we've done
you
more than
for learning language? Let's talk about that.
okay. I think self-confidence.
Building up,
Um,
building up self confident in
yeah,
speaking language. Yeah.
yeah. There's students that will come and just sit quietly and listen, um, and they kind of develop a little bit slowly. You know, I'm a little bit of an introvert. You know, I'm not an extrovert. I don't go and like jump out there and say I'm here. You know, people who do that probably learn better. Um, so again, maybe this ties in with differentiation. You know, kind of like not all learners are the same level, so you kind of have to work across their skills. You know, what they can do, what they can't do, and kind of arrange your lessons according, or your language conversation, whatever you're doing, according to that. Um, we were looking at something called the guided principle
Mm-hmm.
in lessons, because I'm actually doing a master's degree at the moment in educational technology. So last semester we were looking at kind of like the principles of multimedia. So we looked at something called the worked out principle and the guided theory approach. So the worked out principle obviously is for the lower level, you know, so you kind of so the guided principle is where you guide them through. The worked out, they work it out for themselves. Um, so it was interesting. So that's helpful. So you need to know obviously your students' level, you know, whether they're lower, higher, you know, what's the problems, what's the issues. And confidence does play a part.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, I was reading an article from a school in England, in Kensington in London, and it was a bilinguals, well, more than bilingual. There was about these children were being forced to speak English in their classes, but they weren't doing very well at school because when they go home, they were speaking maybe Hindu or they were speaking Italian, but sometimes in their houses they were speaking four different languages to different
Mm-hmm.
people in their house.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they came to school and they had to speak English, they found it really difficult. So this school took kind of an alternative view and said, you know, that English isn't the first language anymore. They had like a multilingual approach.
Mm-hmm.
And these students who could speak 3-4 languages did really, really well after they changed kind of the approach to the learning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, yeah. So if you can learn, if you're a polyglot,
Mm-hmm.
if you know more than 3-4 languages and you're a polyglot,
Hmm.
you probably do quite
There
well.
is a statement also, I think, I forgot who has made that statement. The statement is something like that: if you know one language,
Mhm.
so that means you have read only the one page of this whole globe. This globe is a
Okay.
book. If you know one
Okay.
language, you have only read the one page of this globe,
Okay.
something like that. Knowing
Okay. I
many
haven't heard that. I'll have to
languages
look it
will
up.
give us the more opportunity.
Yeah. These children who have like multi languages are quite intelligent because of their pathways, their brain pathways are very different to kind
Mhm.
of like um, bilingual or like monolingual
Mhm.
children. So they actually were very intelligent, but they couldn't show it because they had were being forced to speak in English. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's really interesting. If I can find it, I will post it to you. It's a really interesting read, and I think they call it something like translinguism, something like that. Translinguism
Mhm.
was the kind of the term. Yeah, it was a teacher
Absolutely.
from a Kensington school in London.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Okay,
kind of yeah.
so let's come to our seventh point. The
Seventh,
sixth point we discussed about all about the confident, building up the confident after learning whatever we discussed till now. So we do need to develop our confident also. Yes, I can speak this particular language.
yeah,
Building confident will always help us to speak language confidently also.
for
We do
sure.
need to work on that. Yes, I am having the confident in speaking that
Yeah,
language. Okay,
for
let's
sure.
talk
There's
about
a
the seventh point.
Can I just make one more point?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a term called scaffolding. Have you heard that scaffolding, where you can kind of scaffold up or scaffold down. So you can either start from the beginning and scaffold the learning up, or you can give them like the outcome and you kind of work backwards. So
Scapegoat. Are you
depending on
talking
your
about the
learner.
scapegoat?
Sorry, say again?
Are you talking about the scapegoat?
No, scaffold. So like
Scap.
you build a scaffold, so like layers. So
Oh,
you kind of
layers.
like take
Okay, okay,
little,
got it.
so like
Step
steps,
by
a
step.
scaffold.
Step by step.
Yes,
All
step
right.
by step, yeah. And it's only, when you've kind of accomplished that step, you're like, yeah, I did that, and you move on to the next one. And then before you know it, you've kind of done the whole thing. So I think it's very important for self-confidence and kind of student motivation that, you keep that kind of like pace up, keep motivating them, keep telling them they're doing a good job. And nobody won the race, by jumping straight to first place. They take it step by step by step, and that's the best way to do it. For sure. But
Absolutely.
confidence, definitely, but just do it bit by bit, and it will grow. Before you know it, you'll be like doing presentations to, I don't know, European government, maybe, I don't know.
It will
Slowly.
it will grow before you know.
Yeah,
So
if there's a term like from a little from a small acorn, sorry, from a small acorn, great oaks grow. So like from a little acorn, a big tree grows. So your knowledge kind of is tiny now, but it will grow
step by
bigger.
step.
And you,
All right.
yeah, for sure.
What?
Don't jump ahead too far.
Yeah. Do appreciate you. What could be the seventh point? Our discussions about learning language,
English and
developing language. We are discussing the 10. Oh, cat. Oh, cat. Oh my
this is
gosh.
one of three. This little one is Indy.
Okay.
Her name's Indy, and
Indy.
she's 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but they're very unsettled at the moment because it's very warm here.
So, does they
So they're
understand
trying to find
English?
somewhere.
Does they understand English fully?
She does, yes, because I don't speak to her in Turkish, so she knows her name. Yeah,
Cat
she's
understanding
gorgeous.
English.
She's really
What a
lovely. Yeah.
what a joy to
So
know
we have
that.
3 cats. One is the kitten is fluffy grey.
Mhm.
He's 1. She's 3, and the older one, I don't know where he's gone, is 5. So
That's good to know that. Okay, so let's talk about now the seventh topic, the seventh
okay, I'm
point.
trying to think of
Sorry, yeah,
7. Okay.
seventh point.
We kind of, okay. I think it just use anything you can, so like comics,
Comics.
comics. My husband is translates Marvel comic to Turkish and English, for example. So like comics are a really good way of kind of like expressing your own, because you can make your own. It can be your own adventure. Storytelling, storyboards, that kind
Storytelling,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
storytelling is
so the
really,
number seventh point could be storytelling now.
for
Telling a
sure. Yeah,
story in
being
English
more
language.
creative. Yeah, you can make a storyboard, or you can write the story, or however you want to do it. Create a book or whatever, even just a drawing book, and you can make a video, go make a podcast. I was once here in Sultanahmet, just kind of minding my own business, and a group of schoolgirls came and asked me if they could interview me in English. So that was their task. They had to find somebody to speak to in English, and so things like that. Take your mobile phone and go and you say, okay, can you tell me, okay, why you like I don't know, pasta. It can be anything. They can create a list of them themselves. Like word quizzes, crosswords, anything that's kind of going to get you to think a little more kind of constructively, critically as well. Yeah, for sure. So
Absolutely, this could be the seventh point of our discussions. Very
I
important.
think with English being an international kind of language, even if you only know maybe a few words, you can get by to a certain extent with just a few words. But obviously, to be more fluent and feel more confident and competent,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, you need to practice as well. So practice is, you could even get a microphone and like record yourself speaking,
Mm-hmm.
or make a rap, make a song, um, create a poem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's endless things you can do.
Absolutely.
So
Let's
yeah,
talk about the eighth point. What could be
okay.
the eighth point? We came to conclusion after
Eighth
this
point.
level.
Okay.
The eighth point
Um,
for learning language. What it could
I think
be.
maybe take kind of you at some point you have to take kind of control of your own learning yourself. You know, so maybe you go and
Yeah.
you
Taking
create a group
control of
yourself
your own learning is also the very
for sure.
important
So you have
point.
some autonomy. You know, you're controlling it. Nobody's telling you what to do. You're saying, "I want to do this because I need to learn it for
Mhm.
um, whatever
No, it
reason."
can be another reasons also. Take control of learning yourself means
For sure,
instead of that, it
definitely.
can be like, for example, sometime what happens, people are trying to learn language by themselves. There is nothing wrong in that, learning
No, for
language
sure,
themselves. So what happens sometime, it is being seen that learning language by themselves, it takes them long time, a lot of time to learn language.
yeah,
So be prefer always, if you have opportunity to get an expert for learning language, taking
for sure.
control of
If you
learning
can,
yourself rather to have an
mhm,
expert, it will save your time also. Within short period of time you will learn, and you are gonna get a confident also, because the doubts, the
for
fear,
sure,
the mistakes, the problem, the difficulties you have, everything is going to be helped by that
for sure.
trainer. The expert is going to assist him a lot. So I think it could be in that perspective also, taking control of learning yourself rather finding an expert if time allows you, if you have resources, something like that. That's gonna help
For
them a
sure.
lot also to learn language within a short period of time in
Yeah.
specific way and in effective way.
I think also if you learn by yourself, you don't know if you're making mistakes.
Yes,
You know, you
absolutely.
don't know if your pronunciation is not correct, or you know you saying the word incorrectly. So yeah, I know people who have learned by themselves, but yeah, but it's very difficult as an adult, particularly to correct English if it's been learned badly. It's quite
Mhm.
difficult to correct it. Yeah, so
Okay,
that's important.
let's
Okay,
talk
last one.
about the second
Okay, can
last
I just
point.
give me 2 seconds because my I just need to plug my charger in because my battery's going to die. Okay,
Okay,
just give me two
okay,
seconds.
okay, okay. I give you 2 seconds. You can plug it your charger. So, dear viewers, we have this English teacher from England, and then she's having
England.
discussions with me. We are talking about the 10 important topics, important points for learning language, what it could be. Based on that, we are having discussions. ऐसी कौन सी 10 बातें या 10 इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक्स और कंटेंट्स हो सकते हैं इंग्लिश को सीखने के लिए, उसी के ऊपर हम बातचीत कर रहे हैं. या लेट्स गो
Okay,
फॉर द
so eighth
सेकंड
point,
लास्ट.
ninth.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ninth
um,
point. Let's discuss the ninth point of learning language.
okay, so um, I teach English. I'm British, but so I've taken. I wasn't quite sure I was going to do it, but I'm going to do this presentation online in this English summit in September. And for me, it was kind of like, oh, you know, I was a bit nervous about it because it's kind of out of my comfort zone. So I think when you're learning a language as well, you need to maybe push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. Um, you know, don't just stay with what's familiar. Um, so yeah, September's kind of creeping up really quickly, and I don't feel quite prepared at the moment. But yeah, definitely push yourself out of your comfort zone. Don't stay with what you know. Kind of go and look for other
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
different kind of.
It would be like coming out from your comfortable zone. Yeah, coming
Definitely, you
out.
know, look, get a word and, you know, write a word on a piece of paper that you don't know. Kind of look for the synonyms or see how many different words you can make from that one word. You know, put it into a sentence. You know, talk about it, blog about it,
So,
write a
in that, I would
newspaper.
like to ask you a question. What would be the disadvantages of comfortable zone, according to you?
Okay, I think if you stay in your comfortable zone, you're not growing.
Hmm.
I
Learning
think
is
you're not.
stopped. Learning is stopped.
Yeah, there's no motivation. You're not challenging yourself. And some people are happy to stay in that comfort zone.
Okay, so
But
what
I
kind
think
of
if you want
people
to
follow the
progress,
comfortable zone? Would you like to tell me?
um, I think people who are just kind of happy that they've reached a certain level and they don't really want to do anymore. They're quite happy to.
No,
They know some English.
according to me, what kind of people will try to find the comfortable zone? Yeah, comfort zone. The people, those who are
Well, they're
lazy people.
lazy. That's right. Yeah, lazy. Well, maybe, maybe,
Lazy
maybe they
people.
don't have the opportunity to learn English how they would want to. Because it can be quite expensive to learn as well. Not everything's free. So yeah, again, if you try and find free resources if you can't, if money's a kind of an issue. There's lots of kind of stuff online. There's like say my friend does a free conversation club every Saturday. For the past 6 years, she's never missed any. So yeah, stuff like that. So you can always learn somehow. I think it's your own kind of motivation, your own reason for wanting to learn.
Absolutely.
Some people
So,
have to learn for their job, and that
yeah,
becomes a kind of like,
for their
and they
job,
don't want
for
to
their
learn.
interviews, for IELTS, for
Yeah, interviews,
education,
telephone
for
interviews.
studies. A lot of
Yeah,
things are there.
a lot of companies now kind of to interview you by telephone, and they want you to speak English. I've actually assessed people on a telephone interview, and sometimes you can't understand at all. Sometimes they're very clear. It's a skill for sure. So it needs practice. But some people don't want to learn English for their job. They don't want to do it. They have no motivation to do that, but they have to. Because their company
So,
says they have.
let's talk about now the last and final point for learning language that we should be following. It can be like learning language or developing language, being confident in language, anything it can be. So let's talk about the final point, the tenth point of
The 10th
learning
point.
language. Yeah.
We got there. Okay. For me, I think enjoy the language, enjoy the different elements of the language, enjoy the words, enjoy what you can do with the language. It's not just kind of you don't have to just write. You can, like I say, you can go and film, you can video, you can podcast. There's lots of different themes and areas. So find something that's interesting for you,
Mhm.
that motivates you, and do it for the right reasons. I think is really important. You're not doing it for anybody. You shouldn't be doing it for anybody else. You should be doing it for your own learning, your own development, your own kind of like satisfaction, I think. And be happy with it. Have fun with it because it's fun. And if it's fun, you learn better, you learn quicker, I think. 'Cause if I sat with my student and just said, "Okay, Marvi, okay, today, what did you do at the weekend?" She says nothing. I could be like that, but with my this particular student, we talk about like octopus and deep sea diving and lots of different things and holidays that she's been, just everything. So don't just focus on one thing. Widen your experience, I think. But not just in speaking. Look at different literature, for example. Shakespeare, Jane Eyre. All the kind of books that you can get. Maybe if that's your comics, like I said before, magazines, film, dance. There's lots of things. Art. I think that's my. Don't restrict yourself. Just go and experience what you can experience. Go to museums. Write your shopping list in English. Don't write it in Indian or Hindu or whatever you write it in, or Turkish. Write it in English.
Absolutely.
I try to do that in Turkish, so it works well for sure. So yeah, so
Yeah,
don't be restricted. Go experience, enjoy, have fun.
Absolutely. So,
I don't know. What do you think?
yeah, I do appreciate you. So, for me, I think, according to me, when I talk about the 10th point, the last point, according to me, it's going to be going for the advanced grammar structures also, because what happens once you achieve the basic and the intermediate, and then always you need to go for the advanced structures. When we go for advanced
Mhm.
structures, so we know that the language is not spoken as in the basic level. The basic level is little different, the advanced level is little different. So going for the advanced grammar structures, and based on that trying to speak, that means developing our level of the language. We can speak in the simple language, we do need to have to ability to speak in
Mhm.
the advanced level also. That's gonna always help us to go forward in our
For
language,
sure.
and it will give us confident also,
Mhm.
because the grammar structures are also very
For
important. We
sure.
should not be learning the rules and wasting time for learning rules. Rather, whatever structures we learn, based on that we do need to have practice, and we need
For
to
sure. I
make the
think
habit,
it
something like that.
depends on your why you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, and depends on why do you want to do that particular things. So what would you like to say our viewers, our
Yeah, I
friends?
just personally, I feel that obviously grammar is important. We need to know the structure. But for me, it's not my only focus. And I think, for the likes of yourself, okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed our discussion. It's been
Absolutely,
really
we had a
interesting.
very good
Just
discussions. We
love
discussed the
English,
10 point.
have fun with it,
Yeah, yeah,
um, go out there and use it. I think you have to use it.
absolutely. So we discussed the 10 important points for
Yeah, I
learning
think there was a little
language.
more than 10 points.
Yeah, more than 10. And it
It
is
was
there in the
good.
live streaming later on also, you may watch, and you have
Yeah,
done a
it's
good
nice to
job.
talk about English.
Yeah. So all our viewers,
Yeah,
I
I
hope
love
they
it.
will
So
also
I hope
get benefited a lot.
everybody kind of learned something new, maybe. And
Absolutely. So dear viewers, it
I hope
was
so.
really very nice
I
talking
hope
to
so.
this English
And
teacher
maybe
Sandra
I'll
from.
send you my website when it's up and running,
Sure,
because I'm
sure, sure,
working on
sure,
it
sure.
at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.